This is one of the tallest and most massive buildings in the world, yet chances are you've never heard of it. The Mecca Royal Clock Tower is an engineering marvel. Standing 35 times the size of Big Ben, it features the largest clock on Earth and cost an estimated $16 billion to construct. At 600 meters tall, it holds the record for the highest occupied man-made space on the planet. When seen rising above the city of Mecca, it's difficult to grasp just how colossal it truly is. To really understand the tower's scale, we need to compare it to other famous skyscrapers. The tallest in Europe, the tallest in the Western Hemisphere, the tallest in Asia, and of course, the tallest building in the world. No matter the city, Sydney, Los Angeles, or anywhere else, this tower would utterly dominate the skyline. Over 10 international construction firms contributed to the project, including a German company that designed the iconic clock. But due to its location in Mecca, many of the engineers and architects were not allowed to enter the city because only Muslims are permitted within its sacred limits. Mecca is extremely conservative. Entering the city feels like crossing a border into another country, complete with passport control. Some members of the construction team, including glazing specialists from Poland and Germany, converted to Islam so they could visit the site. One of them was the owner of a German company near Stuttgart who embraced Islam during the project in order to see the construction firsthand. This is the remarkable story of how one of the world's most unique and extravagant skyscrapers came to be. The Mecca Royal Clock Tower isn't just a hotel, it couldn't be. Not here. It sits in the very heart of one of the most spiritually significant cities on Earth. This is Mecca. Every year, up to 3 million Muslims journey here to complete the Hajj pilgrimage. Part of this ritual includes circling the Kaaba 7 times, an ancient tradition every Muslim is expected to fulfill at least once in their lifetime. The site is thousands of years old, incredibly delicate, and constantly packed with people. And just a few hundred meters from this sacred space is where the colossal hotel was planned to rise. This was no ordinary construction site. It sat within Mecca's first ring road, Saudi Arabia's most congested zone, and at the very core of Islam. With the Holy Mosque and the Kaaba nearby, this project occupied one of the most sensitive locations in the world. Religious tourism is Saudi Arabia's second-largest source of revenue after oil and gas, contributing roughly $122 billion each year to the economy. That makes Mecca home to more hotel rooms than anywhere else in the Arab world, including Dubai. So perhaps it's no surprise that this massive hotel was built here. Still, due to the sacred nature of the site, the developers wanted the building to have deeper meaning. They reached out to architects and asked them to explore ways the tower could represent something more spiritual. One idea emerged during these discussions: the tower could serve as the minaret of Mecca. At the time, the structure was planned to be the tallest building in the world. Initially, the hotel was designed to be 450 meters tall. That alone would have made it the tallest building on Earth when construction began in 2002. But when the decision was made to turn it into a symbolic minaret, the height was increased to 600 meters. The Burj Khalifa wasn't finished yet, it was still in the planning stages. Once news spread that this tower would reach 600 meters, the Burj's developers pushed their plans to surpass it, eventually rising to 800 meters and claiming the record. Still, making the tower a minaret wasn't enough. The client wanted something more. Time plays a vital role in Islam. The call to prayer, the adhan, occurs 5 times a day and is traditionally announced from the top of a minaret. The idea of transforming this building into a clock tower came naturally. This clock would serve as a second global time reference alongside Greenwich Mean Time. Muslims everywhere would be able to track precise atomic time in Mecca, making it possible to begin religious holidays like Ramadan simultaneously no matter where they were in the world. But there was one massive issue. By the time the Saudi developers decided to increase the height and add the clock, half the hotel had already been built. The foundation was designed to support a 450-meter tower, not a 600-meter one. That meant the weight limit was capped at just 82,000 tons. To compare, the similarly tall Shanghai Tower weighs around 575,000 tons. The engineering team had to assess whether the existing foundation could handle more load. They discovered that buildings in Mecca are typically over-engineered to account for the massive foot traffic and to ensure absolute safety. With that in mind, they partnered with German structural engineers from Meyer Lubka and Partner to design an ultra-lightweight structure to sit on top of the concrete base. They needed a solution that was tall, strong, and light. Luckily, history offered a blueprint. Back in 1889, Gustav Eiffel faced a similar challenge when designing the tallest man-made structure of his time. To build high without collapsing under its own weight, Eiffel developed a raw iron framework that redistributed weight to the base. It allowed the Eiffel Tower to soar without sinking. The team behind the Macca Clock Tower borrowed this concept. They imagined placing the Eiffel Tower on top of the hotel. Instead of raw iron, they used high-strength steel and concrete to build a slender framework that narrowed as it rose, much like a tree trunk. There's a spare set of clock hands, and they're so massive that you can actually access them from within. Thanks to a special maintenance switch, both hands can be parked in a horizontal position. Once aligned, a person can slide through them with ease, no need for a 500-meter-high scaffold. To determine the ideal color of the clock face, the design team ran numerous tests. It was especially important to find a lighting setup that made the face legible at night. The most obvious idea was to backlight the facade, but that was quickly dismissed due to technological limitations and the loss of architectural detail definition. After multiple trials in various weather conditions and with different color combinations, the team settled on green and white instead of the conventional black and white. They also decided to use LED lights. Green was chosen for a scientific reason. When green light refracts in the human eye, it focuses directly on the retina's image plane. This creates a sharper, clearer image. As a result, the green and white combination ensured that the clock face would remain visible from over 8 kilometers away. Each LED pixel was placed 105 millimeters apart so that, from a distance, they would appear as a seamless green surface. Astonishingly, over 2 million LEDs were used to illuminate the entire tower. These weren't just any LEDs, they were developed specifically for this project. It took almost a year of refinement to reach the final result. The challenge was the heat. In Saudi Arabia's scorching climate, excessive heat would drastically reduce the lifespan of the LEDs. So they had to find the right type of casting that could act as a cooling system for each unit. Of course, this meticulous attention to detail added to the $16 billion cost. But for the Saudi royal family, these refinements were worth it. After all, this is a monarchy that once purchased Salvator Mundi, the most expensive painting in history, for $450 million. For such elites, fine art is seen as an investment, often outperforming stocks or real estate. The clock face itself was first constructed in Dubai, giving the team a real-world preview. This allowed for both structural testing and visual inspection by architects and engineers who couldn't travel to Mecca. The prototype helped them make necessary adjustments before final installation. 1/4 of the clock was fully constructed, including the main and substructure, before it too was broken down and shipped to Mecca. The very top of the tower was also prefabricated in Dubai, including the iconic crescent. This crescent would reach skyward and house the world's highest prayer room. In Islamic architecture, crescents are traditionally placed atop minarets. This one, however, is the largest carbon fiber structure ever built. Inside, it contains 3 floors, a prayer room, a meeting room, and an office. An elevator climbs through the tower's spire up to the top, where a spiral staircase stretching 15 to 18 meters leads into the crescent itself. But lifting this enormous structure into place came with its own set of challenges. The prayer room had to be divided into segments for transport. But when it was time to raise it, the crane wasn't tall enough. A spiral stair ran up the spine of the crescent, and a friend of mine and I used to climb it for breaks, to smoke a cigarette and enjoy the incredible view. We knew the crescent was scheduled to arrive in the next 2 weeks, but as we looked out, we realized the tower crane's tip only just reached the platform where it needed to be placed. With time running out, they had to push the crane to its absolute limits. At over 200 meters tall, the crane was now carrying one of the heaviest loads it had ever lifted. One segment of the crescent weighed around 7 to 8 tons. This was right at the crane's weight and height capacity. And then the wind picked up. At 600 meters above the ground, riggers strapped into harnesses were tossed by the gusts. The crescent started spinning out of control. 2 or 3 workers actually got sick from the movement. It was that intense. It was one of the most stressful days on site. On the viewing platform, crews used ropes to stabilize and guide the structure into place. The poor crane operator was overwhelmed. Radio chatter blared warnings from all directions. "Watch out! It's spinning! Hold it steady!" It took longer than expected, but eventually the mission was a success. With the prayer room finally installed, the tower was officially topped out. To this day, it remains the highest occupiable space on any man-made structure. The Burj Khalifa's top floor sits at 585 meters. Shanghai Towers is at 583. But the prayer room atop this clock tower stands at a staggering 600 meters above Mecca. The opening ceremony followed, with the King of Saudi Arabia pressing a red button. The entire tower lit up at once. It marked the culmination of 3 years of intense pressure, stress, and tireless work. For the team, it was one of the most unforgettable moments of their lives. Today, the clock tower stands as a modern symbol of Mecca, a city with ancient roots now bearing a structure unlike any other in the world. Even the most awe-inspiring skyscrapers cannot compare to this in shape, scale, and purpose. This tower serves a unifying role, broadcasting time to Muslims around the globe. In an age where unity is rare, that function gives the structure its true value. Despite its record-breaking stats, the building remains surprisingly obscure in the Western world. At first, this disappointed some of the team, but they came to understand that, in contemporary architecture, too much hype too soon can reduce a building's longevity in the public imagination. This tower is being slowly absorbed by the city's skyline. Over time, it is becoming an icon, not just for Saudi Arabia, but for the entire Islamic world. That's because the project brought together workers and experts from all over. At its peak, the complex had as many as 15,000 to 177,000 workers, all Muslim and all from different countries. Practically every nation has a small piece of itself in this building. To me, the clock itself is not the most important thing. This massive timepiece created opportunities to explore cutting-edge materials, innovative technologies, and to carve out extraordinary spaces. It's a building unlike any typical skyscraper. And despite spending years working on it, many of the lead architects have still never seen the structure in person. I haven't, one admits, but we architects, we imagine things well. Of course, to walk around it would be amazing, but imagining it? That we can do.